21st Century Archmage. Author, Kim Gwang-soo. Chapter 46. Something necessary for those living in the here and now. Translator, Lay. Proofreader, Imagine. Tell me what you know about the military commander here. Count Yakes? He's a natural-born field commander. His sword skills have reached master level, and he's even got the bravery not to back down in front of his enemies. Not a single person here has complaints regarding Count Yakes. Even now, it's only because he is defending at a fort on the front lines that the people here can still one way or another live another day. Riker pronounced his trust towards Count Yakes with a firm voice. He's famous within the Empire, too. He is a noble who started as an ordinary knight and rose to counthood with his skills. Tien, everyone said Count Yakes, but in my heart, his name is Count Yikes. That is all. Why is someone like him here? A count isn't someone that can be pushed around so easily even within the Empire. You can see it as Count Yakes having almost no political power, even though he has outstanding military force. Due to the fact he doesn't have noble origins, is from a regular knight family, and has a loyal, incorruptible temperament, he has long been ostracized by the other nobles. Derval spoke as if he also knew. He's different from what I expected. Because he left someone like Lookins alone, I thought he was an incompetent noble greedy for money. It's probably because of the Sky Knights. It's been about 5 years since Count Yakes was assigned here. But most of the Sky Knights who came with him were killed in close combat, due to pirates and those from the damned Tamir tribes. And the only wyvern left is the one the Count himself rides. That's probably why he's left Viscount Lookins, who has so many Sky Knights, alone. But wouldn't you know, his situational evaluation is pretty outstanding too. I thought he only showed his skills when it came to chasing girls, but Riker even had the ability to properly evaluate the situation. He divided the hundreds of mercenaries by skill level within a single day, and even appointed centurions to command them. He was more talented than I could have ever thought. Where is he now? He is most likely in the Northern Territory where the Tamir, demon beasts, and monsters frequently show up. In that direction, it's a completely clear flatland, unprotected by mountains. Will you go meet him at once, sir? Asked Derval after listening to Riker's explanation. The three of us had gathered in my office for a night meeting. I was looking for the best thing I could achieve with the means I had in hand. No, not yet. That aside, is Denver's public security and defense entrusted to the soldiers under the military commander? That is ambiguous. The castle wall and the important forts in the area are being defended by the military commander soldiers, but the city's public security is being arbitrarily enforced by Viscount Lookins soldiers. I believe Viscount Lookins has some kind of agreement with the commander. Then if we attack Viscount Lookins' men and chase them out of the city, what do you think the commander will do? I'm not sure. Ho, don't worry about that. The commander's soldiers won't help Viscount Lookins. An inscrutable, grim smile on his face, Riker said his words with absolute certainty. Why? Most of the soldiers defending Denfers are native residents. In Nerman, when you become a man, you either become a mercenary or voluntarily enlist. Otherwise, it'd be hard for them to feed their families. Are Viscount Lookins' men like that too? Most likely, yes. Most of the mercenaries who came here are Nerman residents as well. Foreign mercenaries wouldn't want to butt heads with Viscount Lookins. So why come to me? It's an explosion of rage. They can endure their disappointment towards the empire that made them this way, but their hearts are already filled with resentment towards Viscount Lookins, who has squeezed everyone's necks to suffocation. For them, you are their hope, Kyrnim. Era. There was a blaze lit in Riker's eyes. He's actually got a pretty fiery sense of justice. Inwardly, I admired the hot rage burning within Riker's eyes. I could tell that unlike his I'm a gigolo face, there were pretty decent thoughts swimming around in his head. Ark, Lookins, that dirty and shameless bastard, is absolutely guilty of high treason that cannot be forgiven even with death. High treason. As if he had been enduring his anger for a long time, Riker clenched his fists with a resentful voice. I picked up on the words, high treason. That bastard, who I want to hit 2,000 times, and then some. He's selling off my divinely blessed ladies to other places, an act that deserves divine punishment. Human trafficking. Those blossoming ladies I couldn't even hold yet. I cannot forgive him. I will put my very soul on the line until the day that bastard, Lookins, is chased out. Once Riker finished, Derval and I could only gape slack-jawed. The reason he hated Lookins so much was actually only because Lookins trafficked the women who were supposed to receive Riker's love. Ark, I'm definitely selling him off later. It's dangerous to leave him by my side. I made a decision. One day, I would chase Lookins off. And Riker? I would either sell this guy off as a slave or send him on a raft to a land far, far away. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. To think it's this much. Oi, over there. Stand in line, darn it. All the hangars are full, so set up tents outside. After a long night of thinking about various things, I fell asleep for a while and woke up to a new morning. Because of the refugees rushing in, the covert began a bustling day even before sunrise. There are over 1,000 mercenaries and refugees gathered. We are in immediate need of food for breakfast. Derval was just as overwhelmed as I was. Rumors must have spread, because people with barely any clothes on their backs or food in their bellies came rushing into the covert's doors holding their families' hands. The mercenaries moved around noisily, organizing the refugees. Send someone to the Rubus merchants and go get the necessary goods. Then distribute things for accommodation and food. Understood. How much had they suffered for most of them to be as thin as a stick? After struggling to live in the shadows of den furs, to which they had grown accustomed to poverty, these people came to me. I couldn't just heartlessly chase them out. Rotten bastard. The main culprit for everything was Viscount Lookins. My heart grew cold with surging rage. Sir Knight, please find our daughter for us. Sob, sob. Oh, merciful Sir Knight, please, please find my poor daughter. Among the refugees was a middle-aged couple who had been asking the mercenaries something before running towards me and kneeling, tears beginning to fall from their eyes. What is the matter? I asked. Said she, is her only daughter, just barely 12 years old. Arg, the soldiers of Viscount Lookins took her, saying we should pay the protection fee. Sir Knight, I will serve you for the rest of my life, so please just find my daughter. For her to be sold as a slave is too unfair. A fully grown man resisted his tears as he burst out in sobs. Please find my little sister as well. Sir Knight, please find my mom. As the middle-aged couple knelt, dozens of others came running as if waiting for this moment and began wailing at me to please find their little sibling or sister, and even their mother. Dirty bastard. The vile Viscount Lookins was even conducting human trafficking, as if there was nothing better to do. I clenched my fists hard. Nobles were originally greedy for money. Yes, but the trash Viscount was endangering life and the fundamental dignity of human beings. I can no longer forgive him. Clang, clang, clang. As soldiers are coming. They're Viscount Lookins soldiers. Just then, the watchtower bell suddenly rang and the mercenaries clamored with alarm. Go, there's a wyvern. And that wasn't all. A certain creature was approaching from far away. A single gray wyvern equipped with silver mithril gear flapped its wings as it rapidly approached. My liege, Derval looked at me. Yuwa, they must be here to catch us. Wah. No, I don't want to be sold to slavery. Wah. The refugees screamed or wept as they wyverneered. Their faces were filled with the fear of death, as if they had cast their eyes on a reaper from hell. What are you all doing? Earn your keep. Block the entrance so that not a single one of those bastards can come in. Even though Viscount Lookins soldiers, who were equipped with half-mail, swords, and spears, were about to march through the front door, the mercenaries were running around panicking without being able to put up a fight. The newly knighted Riker screamed at them before drawing his sword and running towards the entrance. As Riker took the lead, dozens of mercenaries followed him. If you resist, you will be beheaded. You lot are illegally harboring Viscount Lookins serfs and criminals. Quickly send out the serfs and criminals. If you don't, you will all be killed. A man-at-charge cry came from in front of the entrance. Please don't throw us away. Sir Knight, please save us. If they take us away, all of our lives are forfeit. Yuaewa. The cries of adults and children alike echoed shrilly around me. They didn't do anything wrong, but just because they were weak, they had to live like dogs. They were hanging their last hopes on me. I won't throw you away. Never. The Nerman Plains was no different from a lawless land. I wasn't a prophet like Jesus Christ or Muhammad, but a certain thing called my conscience was alive and well inside me and was blazing red hot. Swoosh. Ba-am. Ack. Ea. One man who was begging me on his knees was speared in the back with a flash of silver. At the powerful force within the blessed spear, the man's body burst into pieces as if hit by a bomb. Splot. Blood and flesh spurted out all over the place. My mind went blank seeing the murder that had happened in a single moment. Date! Darling, his family wailed as they looked at the exploded body. I felt something snap inside my head. Swoosh. My body shot forward toward Babetto's hangar. I'll kill you, you piece of shit. That seed of evil had used overwhelming force against utterly powerless civilians. He was flying around in a circle around the covert after throwing the blessed spear, exuding a completely relaxed vibe, as if the murder that just happened had nothing to do with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Fly. Babetto. Go. My voice was sharp with quivering rage, and understanding my feelings, Babetto flapped his wings with great force. You bastard. He had a chance to attack before Babetto lifted off, but he was flying around waiting for us. He would regret that. The moment Babetto was in the air, the likes of luck would have nothing more to do with him. I'll obliterate you. Clash. Clash. Block them. Catch them all. Behead them all. Yo. I saw mercenaries under Riker's command shouting as if they had a lot of resentment built up and raising their shields towards the entrance to meet the soldiers' charge. I had employed hundreds of mercenaries, but there were only 100 at best fighting at the front, whereas Lucan's men numbered at least 300 or 400. However, I wasn't worried about the entrance. There wouldn't be anyone among the attackers on Riker's level. Hoo-hoo, so you want to play around? The Wyvern and Sky Knight above were completely clueless about me. They were flying right in front of Babetto, who had climbed in altitude in a few moments. Flash! At that moment, I saw the light of a blessed spear, an action that looked down on me. I reached out and pulled out a spear. Go! Babetto roared as he flew straight towards our enemies. Qua! The enemy's Wyvern also charged straight towards us. A match that couldn't be avoided. Was I afraid? Not even a little. The only thing in my mind was a desire to see his red. Huh! Blood! Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You foolish bastard. The fearless little rookie chose a frontal match. According to the information, the opponent was a cadet who hadn't been controlling a wyvern for very long. He was able to acquire a hybrid wyvern with some good luck, but not just anyone could become a Sky Knight. A match in the sky required more cool-headed ability than on the ground, flight skills and guts, as well as familiarity with one's wyvern. The mere act of comparing a rookie who had just gotten his own wyvern with someone who had been through a lot with my wyvern for 10 years, was laughable. I'll send you off in one shot. This Kyer dared to fearlessly gather mercenaries and even taken people who were supposed to be dragged off as serfs. Without needing to report to Viscount Lucans, he simply came right away with the soldiers. An incident of this level should be settled by me. There was no need to gather the other Sky Knights. Closer, closer. While glaring at the rookie, Palmyr saw through the visor of his magic helmet that the distance between them was just 1 kilometer. There was nowhere for that wyvern, who only had size going for it to run. However, Palmyr, a Sky Knight of Viscount Lucans, closed the distance more and more, as if hunting a wild wyvern. Now, the moment they were within 500 meters, Palmyr threw his fully charged blessed spear. The light of mana trailing behind it, the silver blessed spear shot off. You're dead, rookie. Cuckoo. Even if the rookie attempted a dodge maneuver, at this distance, there was no way to avoid. The spear was already charging towards the enormous golden-striped wyvern's heart. Even as Palmyr was imagining the sight of his spear punching through the wyvern's heart, he let out a cry at the blue rays of light that suddenly flashed in front of the rookie's wyvern. CLCL clang. He heard the impact too late. A magic swordsman. Surprisingly, his spear crashed into something and rebounded down to the ground. In a certain term, magic swordsman popped into Palmer's head. It's dangerous. Along with that term came a wave of fear that traveled up his spine. Then he saw it. Because they had flown right at each other, the distance was only 100 meters. He saw the silver blessed spear in the rookie's hand leveled at him. He should be taking out another spear, but the white wave of fear made Palmer's hand tremble like a leaf in the wind. Flash! He glimpsed the spear cutting through space as it flew towards him. No! The distance was short, not even 100 meters. As he watched the spear flying towards him, an awful cry rang out in his mind. Crunch! The heavy spear punched through his airplate. Tremble. It couldn't go straight through because of the mithril armor, but the blessed spear had lodged itself deep into Palmer's heart and was poking out his back. There was no pain. His consciousness drained into a field of white. That was the last fragment of memory Palmyr had in this world. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Babetto. Skewer him. Qua. The gray wyvern was unaware that a spear had ended his master's life. As the distance between us closed, he cried out as he swerved and descended towards the ground on his own. I gave Babetto the order to skewer that wyvern. Go. Excited by the thrill of battle, Babetto roared loudly enough to shake the heavens before plunging down towards the gray wyvern's back. Swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Babetto started chasing him, the wyvern fled like a fire was lit under his ass. Crunch. However, Babetto hounded him with nearly double the speed and pierced the joint between the wings and the body with his sharp claws. Quawawak. The gray wyvern let out a horrifying scream at the sudden pain. Flap, flap, flayap. Strong OL, Babetto dragged the struggling wyvern up into the sky with incredible strength. How can that be? The battle below stopped before it could even get fierce. Everyone saw the Sky Knight leading them get killed and his wyvern get subdued. You all, our retreat. Viscount Lucan's soldiers screamed as they fled in all directions. Kyrnim is victorious. The mercenaries and residents raised both fists high in the air as they cheer my victory. Babetto, let's go down. They provoke me first. Standing here, idly waiting for another attack, was something only an idiot would do. Go. Excited by his own strength, Babetto dragged the thrashing wyvern and landed on earth. Thump. A wyvern easily weighing several tons was hurled onto the ground. Derval. Riker, at your command. Their faces flushed with excitement towards me, who easily captured a wyvern and landed on the ground. Derval and Riker ran over. Gather the mercenaries. We are taking control of Denfers right now. The two were flustered by the sudden, extreme command. Derval, go inform the troops defending the city that a personal dispute between nobles has arisen. And Riker, rally the mercenaries and follow me. As you command, I shall do my best to honor your command. At my decisive command, Riker whistled and rejoiced. Hey, everyone, it's the boss orders. He wants to go strip Viscount Lucan's mansion clean. Everyone follow me. Without needing to hear any other orders, Riker quickly moved to lead the mercenaries. Lucans, I'll catch you right off guard. There was no way Viscount Lucans could have imagined that I would create such a huge fuss when it hadn't even been long since my assignment here. I was determined to occupy Denfers, the city that could be called the heart of the Nerman Plains. The battle was only beginning. With greater risk came greater excitement and more gain to win. Babetto, let's go. Go. At my command, Babetto let out a long cry as he flapped his lengthy wings. Let's take them all down. We'll chase all those fuckers out of the city. Perhaps bolstered by the victory I showed them, the mercenaries hooped loudly. Oh ha ha! Today's dinner will be a victory party. Everyone charge. Yee-a-wea. Thump 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 thump. The mercenaries charged like wild horses behind Riker's lead, as if all reason had flown out the window. Lookins, let's fight it out at once. My blade was already drawn. The only thing left was to win the final battle. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What? Occupied? Yes. According to the report just now, the rookie baronet named Kyr forcefully occupied the city of Denfers. What nonsense is that? How can he swallow Denfers? There were Viscount Lucan's soldiers in Palmyr, so how? Janice, who had just returned from a patrol around her area of protection, was informed of an utterly ridiculous situation. Palmyr was killed in aerial combat. Of the Viscount's 500 soldiers, the dead or seriously wounded number around 50, around 400 surrendered, and around 100 fled. The knight in charge of information gave a calm report. Holy, this is just ridiculous. Cuckoo. I knew he wasn't a normal rookie, but to take control of Denfers in just a few days, I'm gonna go nuts. Burkith and Addison, who were always by Janice's side because there weren't that many Sky Knights, were making dumbfounded expressions. This crazy Viscount Lucans won't stay still. There weren't many of Viscount Lucan's soldiers and knights stationed at Denfers. It was an easy feat to seize the city, even with the men under Janice's banner. However, the problem was Viscount Lucan's fierce attack that would surely follow. The current Lucans had such a powerful military force that even the elite Budgeran troops stationed in Nerman could not block them. This could be a good thing. We were going to get caught by Viscount Lucans if things went on like this anyway. It might not be a bad thing for us to use this opportunity to go at it with Lucans. My liege, just like Burkith said, this is something that would have happened after a few months anyway. I also think this is a good opportunity to declare war with Viscount Lookins. While Janice was busy racking her brains, the Sky Knights under her command advocated for an assertive offensive. The problem isn't Lookins. It's the guys behind him. Those guys who can crush a place like this within a single breath. Fear trembled slightly in Janice's eyes as she agonized. Viscount Lookins was daunting too, but there was a helper behind him. She had recently confirmed that those guys, who even the Lavender Empire were helpless towards, had clasped hands with Lookins. Kyre, this is your last chance. Come to me. That's the only way you can survive. Kyre's face appeared in her thoughts. A man with strange thoughts and black hair that was uncommon on the continent. A man of mystery who explosively achieved something Janice was to this day unable to put in motion. She had no doubt that Kyre, pressured by all the military force at Lookins' disposal, including Sky Knights, would come looking for her help. From this moment onwards, we're moving into a state of emergency. Have a knights and soldiers ready to move out at a moment's notice. As you command. Viscount Lookins' base, Gedane Castle, was 3 or 4 hours on horseback from Denfers. Janice decided to fight it out with Lookins as soon as Kyre came to her for help. In any case, if things went on like this, she would either die or have to flee. She instinctively knew that it was time to draw the sword she had honed until now. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. 372 surrendered, 57 died, around 80 escaped. Damage to the mercenaries, 1 dead, 7 injured. And we were able to rescue around 150 of those captured. The short battle with Viscount Lookins' soldiers had occurred in moments. While we were at it, we seized control of Denfers with a flurry of commotion. And now, Derval was reporting the results of the battle. I organized the situation in my head with my eyes tightly closed. Things happened faster than I had planned. Around now, Viscount Lookins had probably heard about the battle at Denfers. I wasn't even the one who started the fight, but things had developed into a game of King of the Hill where one of us had to die. Also, we were able to seize around 150,000 gold in cash and hundreds of arms, including armor. 150,000? Tastier than I thought. If his mansion in Denfers was like that, I couldn't even imagine how much money must be at Viscount Lookins' personal castle. What do you want to do now? Viscount Lookins won't stay still. Even as he reported, the color of Derval's face wasn't so good. Anyone with a head on their shoulders should know how dangerous the current situation was. What else? We gotta rip them all apart. As if encouraged by our recent victory, Riker exuded utter confidence. Derval, tell me what your thoughts are. What do you think I should do right now? I asked Derval, who was intelligent, unlike the stupidly confident Riker. There are 3 methods available to you right now, my liege. There's 3 methods that aren't just crushing them. 1. With Denfers as a base. Control public sentiment and use volunteers as well as the mercenaries to start a full-fledged war. 2. Join hands with Baroness Janice to battle Viscount Lookins' forces. 3. Simply seek asylum. Even Derval wouldn't be able to come up with something amazing in this situation. Out of those methods, the one with the greatest chance of success is probably joining hands with Baroness Janice. Riker nodded his head at Derval's words as he picked out the best method. Janice. Baroness Janice's face of iron came to mind. She won't offer to help first. The one who reached out first would end up under the other. I had the pride of a young man. Unless it was the woman I loved, I didn't want to bend the knee to a lady. The problem is that this has to be resolved quickly. When the order to formally withdraw the troops comes from the Empire soon, it's a given that Nerman will fall into Viscount Lookins' hands. On top of that, the 20,000 plus conscripted men left behind will all go to Viscount Lookins. If that happens, there will be no solution. Unambiguously outnumbered. No other words were necessary. But my liege, the listening Riker quietly called me his liege. Do you have something to say? It's just, Riker scratched his head as he spoke. What are you trying to do here? What in the world do you want to do here on these cursed plains, which will soon be taken over by monsters or pirates, or those Lavender Empire bastards? Unless your head isn't full of rocks, you wouldn't want to become a lord. Riker doubted my current actions and asked honestly. Derval looked at me as if he was curious, too. He had stirred the beehive that was Viscount Lookins like I ordered in the spur of the moment, but he also didn't know what my ultimate goal was. Just cause. What do you mean by just cause? Sir Riker, would you stop to think before you defend against an orc that comes charging at you on the street? wanting to kill you? If you got hit by a poison arrow and your life or death was in flux, would you first make sure you knew who the witnesses were before getting treatment? No, but I'm the same way. I was simply assigned here, and someone named Lookins is a very dangerous guy for my continued life here, and I'm simply doing my very best in order to survive. There's no other reason. I make sure my life is preserved before looking around me. The real reason is that I'm no high priest living with some noble mentality of sacrifice, but an ordinary human just trying to survive. Silence enveloped the room for a moment. Derval, where is the captured wyvern? We have temporarily tied it up in Babetto's hangar. The injury to its wings is considerable, so it shouldn't be able to escape. Pierced at the tendons by Babetto's steel claws, the wyvern was severely injured. I couldn't just leave it. Hire some fleet-footed mercenaries or informers to observe Viscount Lookins' movements. As you command. At my words, unlike Riker, who was still lost in thought, Derval shouted acquiescence with vigor. Because Derval was someone who believed in me and followed me no matter what I did, he didn't ask much. And I liked that part about him. We were creatures living day by day without knowing what was to come. What kind of huge aspirations or hopes could we possibly have? We simply held on to one dream that made us happy just thinking about it and rushed forward day by day towards it. That alone was enough. Everything else besides that dream was a luxury. They were merely decorations unnecessary for those living in the here and now. Chapter 47. My goodness, this person. Translator, Lay. Proofreader, Imagine. Salute. In the covert that had become my foothold, the mercenaries who returned from sweeping Viscount Lookins' mansion clean saw me and fired off salutes that really didn't suit them. Grr. Having lost his home, Babetto expressed his complaints with low growls. Just hold on a bit. I'll make you a lackey. I couldn't waste a valuable wyvern that was still perfectly alive. With a certain method drawn out inside my head, I opened the side door and went inside. Take a look at this guy. The wyvern's partner Skyknight had died, and it had also suffered deep wounds. As I went inside, it glared at me with gray eyes full of bloodthirst, completely unaware of the ill fate awaiting it. It's a female. Male wyverns had hard combs, like rooster combs, 50 centimeters large, protruding around their horns. On the other hand, females only had traces of a dull-colored comb on their heads. The wyvern with steel chains on its ankles was a female. Grr. Her throat trembled as the wyvern glared at me with bloodthirsty eyes. I simply sent a cold smile her way. Your master deserved to die twice over. I did give people serious injuries with a sword before, but until now, I had never committed murder. However, the actions of this wyvern's master had made me commit my first ever murder. My heart was calmer than I expected, compared to the unpardonable, atrocious murder committed by this wyvern's master. My actions looked almost noble. And the deciding point was that he was someone who had tried to kill me. My actions were merely self-defense. Swaiwish. Holy. The wyvern suddenly tried to skewer me with her sharp horns, which looked like they would carve a hole in me the moment they met flesh. I swiftly retreated to block the rude wyvern's attack. Why do this? Like an amateur. As a refreshing smile appeared on my lips, I made an expression of concern. Then, I smoothly raised my hand. Grr. Grr. Stomp stomp. As soon as I did so, the brat clamored as if thinking I was going to attack her. Silence. I cast silence within the hangar while watching her antics. What happened from here on out absolutely had to stay a secret. Kuvo, you're done for. What I came up with was wyvern mental modification. It was a method you couldn't even dream of if you weren't a mage. It hurts, right? Babetto, that jerk is real scary. Seriously, how could he treat a lady this rough? It's not something I did, but I sincerely apologize. I heard that most wyverns had intelligence exceeding that of monkeys. Therefore, they could interpret most of the words spoken by humans. My voice filled with kindness. I apologized to the injured wyvern over Babetto's roughness. The wyvern stopped rampaging at my sudden apology, but convincing her with a few words was impossible. Can't believe me, right? All right, I understand. If not for me, your master wouldn't have died, and you wouldn't have gotten so hurt either, but it can't be helped. If it were you and someone was coming after your life, would you have accepted your death with a smile? I tried to explain my actions with a gentle tone, as if persuading a human. That being said, I'm sorry that he died. If my skills were more exceptional, or I hadn't been so flustered, it should have been possible to not kill him. But I apologize again for that. I attempted to bait the wyvern, something I'd learned from Master. This was something that had already worked on Babetto. I was certain that this method could save this twitchy, gray wyvern and make her my own. O hand of healing, appear before me. Heal. I used heal on the wyvern, who was blinking as she sent a deeply suspicious look my way. Yellow light of mana, filled with life, covered the wyvern's whole body as she flinched. Damn it. Because of all the injuries on its huge body, even though it was only a second circle healing spell, it used nearly as much mana as a fifth circle spell would. Sizzly. The spell's healing power shone for around 1 minute. The wyvern squirmed at the magic at first, but then submitted to the magic, as if reassured by the comfortable energy. Shortly afterward, the magic disappeared. Excellent. Even though the wounds inflicted by Babetto had been deep, the wyvern was perfectly healed by my very sincere spell. It's a small sign of my remorse. The wyvern was completely surprised by her injuries disappearing in just moments. However, the venom in her eyes wasn't completely gone yet. And since things have become like this, why not have a new start with me? After doling out injury and then medicine, I proceeded onto my real plan. GRRR. However, she must still have resentment towards me, because the wyvern bared her teeth and showed her refusal. All right, I don't want to force you. Making a gesture of reassurance, I continued to smile like a good person. I'll bring you fresh food soon, so go ahead and eat your fill. I'm going now. In this situation, I had no intent to force this trembling wyvern. Kerchunk, and as if I really didn't have any hidden intentions, I opened the hangar's side door and went outside. Go. As I came outside, Babetto, who had been straining his ears against the hangar walls, looked at me doubtfully. Because of the silent spell, he hadn't heard a single word. His golden eyes were filled with curiosity. Oh, Babetto, do your best. From here on out, Babetto had an important part to play. Bar everyone from coming within 100 meters of here. Riker had set up a guard around the hangar with the most decent mercenaries at his disposal. As you command, shouted the mercenaries before hurriedly retreating outside the 100 meters. Babetto, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but I feel that it's something you should know. Babetto, ever so good at understanding my words, cocked his ears. The gray wyvern inside just said, as soon as the wyvern was mentioned, Babetto's eyes became sharp. That you suck. Babetto seemed troubled for a moment by the meaning of you suck. They don't even know what that means. You stupid idiot. A stronger push was needed. And she also called you a stupid pervert wyvern that isn't even purebred and only has size going for him. Go. Until now, Babetto had lived his whole life caged up due to being a hybrid wyvern. His eyes rolled wide at the words purebred and pervert. Oh, that's it. That's exactly it. Babetto glared at the hangar door with wild eyes. No further words were necessary. I scrambled over and opened the hangar door wide, the door creaking. Go. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The earth shook as Babetto charged inside. Babetto, don't kill her. Ho ho. I made a sly smile towards Babetto, who charged in. As soon as Babetto was inside, I swiftly closed the hangar door with a big thump. Thump, thump. A moment later, I felt the earth tremble under me as if there were an earthquake. I couldn't hear the gray wyvern's gruesome cries because of silence, but just seeing the way the hangar was shaking, you could tell what was happening inside. Should I slowly go in now? Maybe around 5 minutes had passed. I felt the quaking of the earth stop and opened the hangar door. Babetto, what the hell are you doing? Seeing the still chained-down gray wyvern half unconscious and Babetto standing before her licking his blood-stained claws, I gave him an exaggerated yell. Ho ho ho, Babetto, you're really my lucky charm. As I raised my voice to accuse Babetto and went inside, the gray wyvern on the brink of death made pitiful squawks as soon as she saw me. Those cries were automatically translated into please save me as they flowed like honey into my ears. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That's right. That's a good decision. Let's do our best together from now on. Go, go. After I reached out my hand, the gray wyvern pushed her horns carefully against my hand to show her consent. Even as she did so, she looked at the hangar door with wary eyes. Her eyes were filled with concern that Babetto might come crashing in at any moment and beat her to death. As expected, there's nothing one can do against pure force. Hoo-hoo-hoo. Simple Babetto crashed into the hangar at my lies a total of 5 times. After dragging Babetto out each time and using my very sincere healing magic, the gray wyvern raised the white flag of surrender. The wyvern's confident and vigorous pride from before was thrown to the passing dogs, and she was transformed into a meek lamb. Right now in her mind, Babetto was the bad one. She could only think of me, the person standing before her now, as her savior. I'll bring you a new master in a few days. Rest up until then. Gugu. Still warily staring at the door, she rubbed her long horns on me. Don't worry. I'll take Babetto, that naughty gangster of a brat, somewhere else. Stroking her head as she rubbed her horns on me, I reassured her. Ho-ho, you have acquired one wyvern. A happy sound rang out inside my brain. How much money is this exactly? The price of a wyvern and the gear it was wearing. The satisfaction of scooping up what was basically the price of a territory made my body tingle. Now I have 2 wyverns too. Ooh-ha. If I could keep acquiring wyverns like this, even taking over the continent wouldn't be a problem. All right then, see you tomorrow. We shared a warm farewell before I opened the side door and left. Go. The waiting Babetto pushed his head into me and demanded affection. Oh my goodness, my baby. You did well today. I patted and stroked Babetto's bowed head with a good mood. Go. Babetto grew happy at my petting. Behind him, the sun was already setting. So much had happened between the rising and setting of the sun. Contentment from spending a truly productive day filled my heart. Babetto, shall we go on a flight? Go. As if wagging his tail, the brat let out a happy warble. I lightly jumped onto Babetto's back. Let's go. Babetto, I cried out, grasping the reins attached to Babetto. Go. With a mighty roar, Babetto flapped his 2 powerful wings. Swoosh, swoosh. My body floated up, and then the exhilarating feeling of soaring into the sky hit me. Ah! The red sun that had dipped halfway into the earth dazed my eyes. Swoosh! A stream of wind flew into me. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. Around me was the perfectly clean wind and the glow of the setting sun atop my closed eyelids. I didn't have a single thought, just the feeling of all the fatigue clinging to my body flying away into the wind. It was nice. The emotion I was feeling right now was simply and utterly nice. Palmyr is dead? Why, yes. Not just that, but the troops in Denfers have all been scattered. Inside Gedane Castle, which was a 3 to 4 hour ride on horseback from Denfers, the castle owner, Lookins, stroked his blue beard as he frowned slightly. Is it Baroness Janice? And no, sir. Not Janice? Then did the military commander come personally? Lookins was slightly startled that the culprit wasn't who he thought it was. The thin Lookins' eyes filled with questions. It is that guy. The person newly assigned to Wayne Covert, Baronet Kyer, is responsible. What? Baronet Kyer? You're telling me he alone killed Palmyr and seized the city? The flustered Lookins' voice trembled. He wasn't alone. I'm told that hundreds of mercenaries rallied under him and became his men, along with the mercenary guild master Riker, who you said to win over, my liege. Lookins' mouth shut at the words of the knight who was reporting the incoming information with an apologetic expression. And then, a short moment of silence filled the office, which was decorated with the hides of demon beasts and various armors and weapons. Cuckoo. So you're saying he's not a rookie after all, this rookie? Lookins gave a low chuckle as he repeated the word, rookie. The scar around his right eye wrinkled as he laughed. What do you want to do, sir? As soon as you give the order, we will recapture Denfers tomorrow. One of Viscount Lookins' chief advisor knights, Delvado, expressed his confidence with a vigorous voice. This was a loss they suffered due to getting caught off guard, but with the military power in Gedane Castle, taking back the city would be as easy as taking candy from a baby. No, there's no need for that. What's important for us, right now, isn't taking care of one rookie. What we need to do now is to safely pass on the goods. If this transport fails, then those Lavater bastards will seize this place. You don't have to worry about that, my liege. The transport convoy is fully prepared, and those guys said they would soon depart as well. My liege can. Are you kidding me? Do you have anything to say for yourself after not being able to take care of a single rookie and losing Denfers, Delvado? No, it was a completely unexpected matter. Unexpected? Cuckoo. How very laughable. He was laughing, but the inside of the office was frigid. Frigid with intense bloodthirst. Don't test my patience. Don't you know that I'm not a very good person? Gulp. Lookins' warning was velvet smooth as well as quiet. The middle-aged knight named Delvado gulped. He knew Lookins' character very well. The Viscount had never given his subordinates a second chance, and the price for failure was severe punishment. Delvado could even lose his life. I will put my life on the line to do my very best, responded Delvado, as bowed low. Don't let down your guard until the moment the transit is completed. If this matter is a failure, then all of you will die by my hand. Whoosh. With his warning, a wave of heavy mana whirled throughout the office. The big lamp, lighting up the room, could not resist the force and went out with a puff. And then, within the darkness, the mana coiled thick within the room like a Viscount Lookant's invisible authority. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So Viscount Lookant's is in control of the southern region connected to the Havis Kingdom, which is the Nerman Plains' only safe communication path. Commander Yakes and his soldiers are up in the north, where the attacks of the monsters and the United Tamir tribes are severe, and Baroness Janice is in charge of the shore. Is that right? Yes. And in the middle of those powers is this place, Denfers. Baronet Turnane, a retainer of the commander, and thousands of troops are defending the walls of Denfers and the surrounding fort. Sigh. I never could have imagined this would be a game of war. Even though I had learned Korean, English, math, and various subjects at school, none of those taught kids these kinds of war games. Or well, I did learn of a few battles in history, but that was qualitatively different from abstract battle tactics and the current bloody warfare in front of me. Here, if you lost, you would have to flee without a single possession to your name or die. I was just a poor high schooler flung into an African safari. What do you two think? When do you think Viscount Lookants will attack? On top of that, I had to speak with authority in class now. I was a bit more used to it now, but if the kids from my class heard me now, they would definitely band together to ostracize me. If he puts his mind to it, he could seize this place within a few hours. But there is no point in making predictions. That's right. I haven't been here long, but no one here knows what Viscount Lookants is thinking. Besides knowing that he's cruel and level-headed, everyone's so scared of Viscount Lookant's name that they piss themselves at the sound of it. What a difficult personality. Instead of being called fiery or reckless, or a treacherous opportunist, Lookants was described with the words cruel and level-headed. That meant Lookants and I had something in common. We were always prepared to be stabbed in the back. Shall we strike first? And my liege. Cuckoo, do as you please. I'm confident I can escape with my life alone if things come down to it. Unlike the flustered Derval, Riker was the picture of relaxation. Please meet up with the commander once, sir. With Count Yakes. If Viscount Lookants doesn't come attacking today, then we will probably have a few days of time spare. Derval uttered prophetic words. How do you know that? Riker asked Derval. It is a hunch. There's no way someone as level-headed as him doesn't know the importance of Denfers, and he should know that if given time, there's a possibility that you and Baroness Janice will unite, my liege. So if he doesn't attack right away, then it must be in order to take care of something more important than here. Oh, you sure can pull some ridiculous words out of your mouth, Riker bantered. The possibility? I believe it's likely 90%. Derval showed baseless confidence. That reminds me. Riker suddenly exclaimed, as if remembering something. The mercenaries that went out hunting a while ago said this. That many people were being moved to Viscount Lookant's previously dormant transport convoy, and that the security has gotten stricter there, too. Transport convoy? Viscount Lookant's even has a transport convoy. I don't know much about it, but he has a few ships capable of ocean travel moored at a dock not too far from Gdain Castle. Transport convoy? Didn't they say the sea was controlled by pirates? Because of the pirates, this land's people couldn't even go fishing far from shore. The Lovent River was large, but it wasn't big enough for a frickin' transport convoy to be practical. It is indeed fishy. I heard the merchant groups coming in from the Havis Kingdom mostly use the land route. At Riker's words, Derval's eyes flashed. Oh, wouldn't you know? I didn't know what exactly was going on, but I thought Viscount Lookants and the transport convoy must be deeply connected. It was so important that he would ignore Denfers, which was basically his living room, in favor of whatever had to do with the convoy. Let's just keep watch for today. We still have to organize the captured prisoners of war and the mercenaries and send the residents who lost their homes in Denfers back. After all, mercenaries were swarming in, and there was a long line of refugees who had lost their homes. The rumors must have flown wide and far, because there was an endless stream of people coming into the covert. If things went on like this, it wouldn't be a covert anymore, but a refugee camp. All right, let's do just that. Send back all the people whose shops were taken by Viscount Lookants, and hire the people among the mercenaries who have decent skills or military experience and roughly organize them like the Imperial Army. As you command. Ho ho, just believe in me. Derval, who was overflowing with trust, and Riker, who could not be trusted at all. I nodded at the two people's responses. But my liege. In the middle of leaving while responding, Riker stopped as if suddenly remembering something and quietly called me with honorifics. Do you maybe need a Sky Knight? Sky Knight? Why do you ask? Hee. Actually, I rode a wyvern a bit back in the day. So, could you give that gray wyvern you caught yesterday to me? Era? He's even got a flight license. Even though he was noble-like in that he looked like a lecher lusting for money and women, Riker spoke coarse and ignorant things like a commoner. But now he was saying that he had flown a wyvern, which pretty much only nobles could come across. The wyvern must be in need of some reform, but please leave it to me. If you do so, I will transform it into an absolutely loyal wyvern within a few days. Ovo, absolute loyalty. Even if he said that, I could never trust Riker. He was someone who would sell the wyvern to rent out a bar and indulge in debauchery. I will think about it. There's no rush yet. Huh. Then I will trust that you will leave it to me and retreat now. Thank you, my liege. I never said I would leave it to him, but Riker counted his chickens before they hatched all on his own, and even sent me a wink. My goodness, this person. But weirdly enough, I didn't hate it. How to describe it? A certain exuberance, the exuberance of wandering the world to have fun, was flowing from Riker's body. Chapter 48, Count Yakes. Translator, Lay. Proofreader, Imagine. Look, my armor is cooler. The heck are you saying? The stitching on my armor is tighter. What? Don't even go there. Why, you mad, bro? You want to fight? Even after mid-morning passed, there was no news of Viscount Lookance mobilizing his soldiers or wyverns. While waiting for news, we distributed formal armor and weapons to the mercenaries who Riker acknowledged as being decent. These good-for-nothings. Doing things with these mercenaries, who were about to get into fist-fights with some rather useless pride on the line, was like going into a fiery pit loaded with gunpowder. I need trained, formal soldiers. I was lacking all sorts of things, including wyverns, supplies, and even soldiers. When my thoughts turned to formal soldiers, I automatically thought of the Nerman's formal soldiers under the authority of Commander Yakes. I've got no money, backing, or even a decent title. What should I do to earn some soldiers? I wasn't even a real noble. I only had a dubious baronet title. On top of that, I was bitter enemies with the nobles in the capital. No matter how you sliced it, there were only disadvantages everywhere. Pang! Catch it! Block it! We can't lose like this. I was sitting in the HQ office's yard with Babetto while prepared to move out at any time and watching the disorderly mercenaries when I heard the clamoring of kids playing with a shabby ball made of dried grass stuffed in a leather on the runway. Unlike the adults, the kids recovered their energy right away once food and accommodations were secured. Dozens of them were excitedly running about on the runway with a single weird leather ball. Good times, I said to myself, reminiscing about the ball games that the phys ed teachers always resorted to because they didn't want to teach. Those middle school days when the teachers would throw out a few balls and the kids would make teams on their own and have fun. The innocent appearance of the kids on the runway warmed my heart. My lord. Lord. While I was watching the kids play, someone cautiously called me their lord. I turned. Isn't she Lucia's mother? Lucia's family had been the first to join the covert. Since I didn't have a chef to take care of my meals, Lucia's mother just became my personal chef. She was now holding a still-steaming, mouth-watering strawberry pie in front of me. My lord, please have some of this. Strawberries are currently in season, so it should be very delicious. I will eat it with gratitude. But Lucia's mother, I am not a lord. Please, speak casually to me, sir. And if not you, who else here in Nerman would be deserving of the title, my lord? It's not just me, but everyone else here as well. Everyone has been calling you the lord. Lord? Ahem. Well, it doesn't have a bad connotation. Your kindness, which saved those of us with nowhere to go, and we're going to become serfs or sold as slaves. Sobi. I will never forget that kindness for the rest of my life. Lucia's mother suddenly expressed her sincere thanks with tears. No, I didn't do much. Please don't say such things, my lord. If not for you, my lord, we wouldn't have been able to spend even a few days this comfortably, scrimping and saving day after day for the protection fee and the piling debts, and nowhere to flee with the monsters all around. Truly, if not for Lucia, my husband and I would have committed suicide in despair long ago. Having never gone through that, how could I possibly understand how she felt? But just from hearing it, I could somewhat imagine the suffering of these people, who had lived while treated like animals, even though they had no sense simply because they had no strength. Thank you for the meal. Haha, and please don't worry. I will care for you all to the best of my ability. Thank you. We will follow only you to death, my lord. Her head bowed. Lucia's mother politely held out the plate with the strawberry pie with both hands, showing the maximum degree of respect. The price of a strawberry pie is ridiculous. I would be accepting the title of a lord along with this strawberry pie. The plate I took from her was quite heavy. Now I would be stuck hearing my lord all the time. Hood, hood, hood. What? That bastard. Block him. Block the entrance. Move. It's a message from the commander. The moment I was about to take a bite of the warm strawberry pie, I accepted with such gravity, there was a ruckus at the entrance. A man wearing formal soldier armor flew a flag as he tried to enter from the entrance on his horse, and the idle mercenaries who were fooling around swore as they ran to stop him. Is there any commanding officer here? I'm a messenger belonging to the commander, shouted the soldier loudly, alarmed by the rush of scowling mercenaries. Geez, what a headache. There were people they should block and those they shouldn't, but the mercenaries were confidently standing in front of the formal soldier as if his imperial flag didn't mean shit. I felt my head throb. Hey, you blockheads. He said he's a messenger of the commander. Riker, who clearly ran up in the middle of something because he had no armor on, treated the mercenaries like idiots as he cleared the path for the messenger. This is a message for anyone who is a Sky Knight to quickly take orders. Who here is a Sky Knight? The messenger who urgently rode into the covert was looking for a Sky Knight. At his words, everyone's gazes turned to me. The lucky person sitting there eating a pie is a Sky Knight, said Riker, his finger landing precisely on me from afar. Hiya. The distance was only about 100 meters, but the messenger kicked his horse into my direction. Riding over and jumping down from his neighing horse with great urgency, he delivered his message. I have an urgent message. The Tamir are currently moving south in great numbers. Sky Knights should go without delay to the plains near Auric Castle, where His Excellency the commander is at. Please depart at once. It seemed he was delivering an order from the magic communication channel that only formal imperial soldiers could use. The Tamir, the barbaric Tamir tribes I had only heard about were moving south, but the problem was that I was facing a possible attack from Viscount Lukens. I had to make a judgment quickly. If he wanted to go at it, he would have already come. I made my decision. Even Viscount Lukens couldn't attack all of Denfers. All I had to do was to give the order to temporarily scatter if Sky Knights were mobilized. Riker, yes, my liege. Perhaps because of his greed towards the wyvern, honorifics rolled off Riker's tongue with ease. If Viscount Lukens comes, everyone should scatter and wait. I will leave for a moment. Please leave this place to me and go without worries. Riker smiled widely as he yelled from the entrance. His voice was energetic, but my heart felt zero trust from that voice. Babetto, we're heading out. Babetto was prepared to move out at any time. At my command, he woke right up from his dozing with a roar. I jumped on his back and clipped myself into the safety belt. Let's say go. Gwa. Babetto let out a huge roar. Swoosh. Flapping his wings, we left the ground with great speed. Ho-ho. They said I get money every time we sortie, right? Here, everything ran on money. What use was it to play around? It was common sense to earn even a penny more when you were young so that you didn't have to struggle once you grew old. And I was a sensible young South Korean man who knew how to invest for the future. Your Excellency, please evade. The sky was swarming with around 30 wyverns. Small boulders and large logs were held within their claws. D-dodge. Yuwa. Flying at an altitude where arrows could not reach, the wyverns flung down the goods they were holding on top of the soldiers below us. Crash. Crash. Kayak. Ayoa. Even with your eyes wide open, the boulders could not be evaded. They weren't knights who could use mana, but regular, ordinary soldiers. Driven by fear, they tried to block by raising shields, but they ended up smashed into the ground and turned into a mess of blood and bones under their shields. Your Excellency, one man stood there, guarded by knights and mages. At the news that monsters were attacking the biggest village in the northern region, Haitun, the viceroy of Nerman, Yakes, went into battle with his soldiers. Possessing a sturdy physique exceeding 190 centimeters, 6 feet 6 inches, in height and broad, open shoulders, as well as a hard face with a chiseled chin and eyes the size of a bull's, Count Yakes, who you could tell was an impressive military man at first glance, was standing there with his clenched fists quivering. While they were chasing off the monsters, wyverns of the Tamir suddenly appeared. As expected for savage tribal people, their wyverns weren't even wearing any protective gear. Not only that, but all they had for weapons were junk-blessed spears they had scavenged from here and there. But there was no way to fight them. Wyverns could only be fought with wyverns. Magic or arrows from archers would only scratch the wyvern's hides. Was a messenger dispatched? A missive was urgently sent out. But, Your Excellency, there's no one in Wayne Covert worth believing in. It was chaos. 5,000 soldiers were running here and there on the plains, frantically trying to hide. Stones and logs would fall on their heads right away if they stayed clumped up. Military discipline had fallen apart long ago. If only I had a flight formation. Arg! Yakes felt rage boiling up in him. Rage so powerful it couldn't be controlled. Yakes was a military man who started out as a knight and rose to account with a commander position entrusted with an entire area. He ground his teeth looking at the wyverns from the barbarian tribes, which at one point hadn't even been worth fighting. They were trifling opponents he wouldn't need to fear at all if he just had a formal wyvern formation. But the Sky Knights under Yakes' banner had all lost their wyverns in the bloody battles of the past few years. He had over 10 wyverns under his command, but they couldn't endure the attacks of the Tamir bastards who came by the dozen in every skirmish. One after another, they disappeared, and now only the wyvern in the Count's personal possession was left. However, the remaining wyvern had suffered tears to its wing and muscles 10 days ago, so it was resting in its hangar in the castle. Your Excellency, we must withdraw. If things go on like this, the soldiers will die a dog's death. One of Yakes' advisor knights uttered words as crude as a dog's death, words utterly unsuitable for a knight to say. However, the terrible scene before them deserved those words, and then some. If we withdraw, then who will save the civilians and soldiers in Haitun? Thousands of civilians and hundreds of soldiers in Haitun were fighting bitterly with the monsters while waiting for reinforcements. Unlike other places, monsters in the northern region lived in groups and knew how to form a united front when attacking humans. They're important as well, but the lives of the soldiers are valuable too. Moreover, if you are met with danger, Your Excellency, who will protect Nerman? The knight painfully gritted out his counsel. Even as a top adjutant, he couldn't meddle so directly in the matters of the Count, the military commander, who was like the sky. However, the current situation warranted it. The soldiers were strewn all over the place like finely ripped up paper. They're coming. Mages, prepare. The Tamir wyverns were snatching up scattered soldiers like eagles hunting mice. Its claws punching straight through armor. A wyvern lifted one man up and tossed him down from high above. A death cry rang out for a moment. Everyone who had ears wanted to shut them. But this was the curse that was currently their reality. Putting their comrades' cry behind them, they had to hide next to boulders or trees, or simply lay flat on the ground and draw rough breaths. The Tamir turned to rush towards the Count, who was protected by around 10 knights and 3 mages. They already knew he was there, but knowing that Yakes' men had no wyverns to face them, they had slowly approached like a cat playing with a mouse. These bastards! Yakes ground his teeth inwardly. He had requested help countless times, but throughout all those years, not a single Sky Knight from Wayne Covert had answered his call. The active Viscount Lookins dragged his feet knowing that the Imperial troops were retreating, and the Baroness named Janice could not help because she was busy keeping Lookins in check. But Yakes sent word to the Covert this time again, just in case. If there happened to be a newly assigned Sky Knight, Yakes wanted to take his hand at the very least. Those fools to throw away this land of opportunity. For the past several years, Yakes had done his best to defend the Nerman Plains. Its seasons were distinct. There were almost no natural disasters like storms or heavy rains. The sea and rivers were overflowing with fish, the earth was fertile, and the undeveloped mines were full of treasures yet to be discovered. It was truly a land of opportunity. The Empire was going to throw away that kind of land. The Emperor was likely unable to block the requests of the nobles threatening his imperial power. When sending him here, the Emperor told Yakes this. If you can endure well for just a few years, Nerman will become a stepping stone for the Empire's future. Believing in the Emperor's words, Yakes used the entirety of his family's fortune to expand his wyvern forces and brought his soldiers to guard Nerman. However, he was now at his limits. A few months ago, the Empire stopped sending wages and supplies entirely. The blood of a little less than 30,000 soldiers was too heavy for the Empire to take. And not long ago, An order came down from the Empire. An order stamped with the Emperor's seal commanded Yakes to retreat within 2 months, leaving all the soldiers behind besides the elite Imperial troops. It was cold-hearted and cruel. Despite the critical situation, Yakes couldn't help but let out a dry laugh. Swoosh! As he laughed, blessed spears came cutting through the wind towards him. Block it! Clatter! Drawing their swords, the knights stood in front of the Count to protect him. Shield! Wind shield! Mana shield! The mages on standby completed a barrier made of shield spells. Papa-papa-pow! Re-ite! The knights' eyes opened wide. The shields were ripped apart like cracked glass windows. Re-yip! Pow! Pow! Pull! Arg! Breaking the shields deployed in the air in the blink of an eye. The blessed spears lodged itself in the last one left, the milky-colored mana shield. Fortunately, the 5 or 6 blessed spears were buried in the mana shield deployed by the 5th Circle Mage, the ends of the shafts quivering from the force. Silence fell in an instant. At best, the armor worn by the knights were steel suits enspelled with weight reduction magic. The only armor that could block a blessed spear flying in from above was armor made entirely of mithril. But their relief only lasted a brief moment. Swoosh, swoosh. Done chasing the soldiers as if they were mice, the wyverns drew circles in the air as they flew high above the Count and his knights. They no longer had a chance to run. Even if they ran on horseback, they would only be as fast as rabbits to the wyverns. Woo-wah! While the Count and his knights were facing a desperately dangerous situation, a cry suddenly thundered in the sky. That is. What? Following the sound of the cry, the knights turned their heads. Seeing a dot coming far away from the south, they burst out in cries of alarm. It was a wyvern. A formal wyvern wearing magic gear. But not a single person among them rejoiced. The wyvern was definitely reinforcements, but no one could see it as such. Only a single wyvern was flying over to face 30. Dumbfounded, the knights and mages stared into the sky with hollow eyes. The 30 wyverns in the air turned their heads towards the new enemy that appeared. It was obvious, without even having to bat an eye, that the stupid wyvern would soon meet the hot embrace of blessed spears with its whole body and kiss the earth. Chapter 49, Condition. Translator, Lay. Proofreader, Imagine. After hastily making my decision, we flew 1 hour north. In the north, besides mountains that were like small hills, everything was flat plainsland. Thanks to the sky lacking a single wisp of cloud, I could see quite far ahead, and I was able to find the group of soldiers pretty fast. The problem was that the soldiers I found were scrambling to flee in all directions, and that I had a bad feeling that one of the people I had to meet was right under a huge flock of wyverns. Voot? How many is that exactly? Because the messenger said it was an attack of Tamir, tribal folk, I had slightly let down my guard. But the massive horde of wyverns in front of me smashed that feeling to pieces. 1, 2. Yoa. It's ought to be at least 30. Drawing huge circles in the air like vultures circling corpses, the wyverns went around and around in the air. A rough count yielded over 30. But those guys, they don't even have armor. It wasn't just that the wyverns lacked protective magic gear, but the Sky Knights were also not wearing air plates. They were only holding leather armor that glowed blue and blessed spears. The wyverns they were riding had what looked like magic circles drawn on them, but were actually just strange figures and letters. Damn it. I'm not even Godzilla, savior of mankind here. Even for me, the 30 wyverns dizzying my eyes was a burdensome number. Do I save them or not? I was still about 4 kilometers away from the enemies. They must have not yet seen me, because the wyverns didn't change directions. But I agonized a moment. If I turned tail here, that was that. But if I was discovered by them, I would have to fight around with my life on the line. Woo-wah. Oi. However, my agonizing didn't last long. Reincarnation of fighting cock gangster, the go-getter Babetto threw all caution to the wind and loudly announced his existence to the 30 enemies. All right, thank you oh so much. Sigh. At Babetto's roar, the 30 wyverns were visibly startled. They swerved to fly towards us. Now, a fight was unavoidable. I picked up blessed spears with both hands. Wait a sec. I don't have enough? I only brought around 20 blessed spears with me, because I wouldn't need more than that. Right? But the enemy numbered over 30. No matter how you added and subtracted, the numbers didn't add up. Oh, right. I have that guy. Just then, I suddenly remembered a certain existence. As long as I ordered it, it would even dare to bite a dragon on the nose. Shuriel, come on. Swoosh. That's right, it was a special existence called a spirit. Responding to my powerful summoning, a silver eagle of wind appeared in the world. Shuriel, go bite to your heart's content. Flash. As soon as my order fell, the wind spirit Shuriel shot off at the speed of light. Gay. I groaned inwardly as my mana was sucked out in proportion to that speed. Wait a sec. Those guys are all wyverns, aren't they? The moment I was about to pour mana into the blessed spears, a thought occurred to me. The wyverns swarming in the sky weren't enemies, but lumps of money. Oh ho ho, what kind of pie from the sky is this? A wyvern was priced at over 1 million a pop. Unfortunately, they didn't have enspelled gear, but I would be very grateful for the wyverns alone. I put down the blessed spears in my hands. If they hit wyverns without any enspelled gear, the wyverns could die. You're all mine. I had to catch them all in one go without giving them a chance to escape. Goo. It wasn't clear whether Babetto had complete faith in me or was just cracked in the head and had no fear anymore. He roared excitedly as he charged at full speed. And before I knew it, the enemy Sky Knights were just 2 kilometers away. They must have been looking down at my charge, because only the first 5 at the front were putting mana in their blessed spears. As I watched them, I drew my mana up to the utmost. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. See, crazy. How ridiculous. It was a 1-on-30 battle, but Count Yakes and his knights felt like drowning men who would clutch at straws. The sudden appearance of the intermediate spirit revived a flush of hope in them, but they were then plunged into despair upon seeing the Sky Knight lower his blessed spears. It was obvious at a glance that he had given up on life. Their one scrap of hope disappeared into the wind. Flip, 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 flip. As they watched in despair, blessed spears were fired off from the Tamir tribal Sky Knight's hands. Kyo. Crunch. Even as the blessed spears shot off, the intermediate spirit Shuriel bit down with all its strength on the wing of the wyvern at the very front. Qua. You could imagine just how hard the spirit must have chomped down for the wyvern to scream while circling in an uncontrollable descent to land. It seemed the wyvern had suffered such a huge injury that it could no longer use its right wing. Polo. And magic. Yakes' knights couldn't even laugh at Shuriel's actions. A loud explosion suddenly burst out in the air. Wind tornado. How can they use 5th circle magic during flight? Exclaimed Yakes' personal mage, Halmine, in surprise. Normally, even if a spell was memorized, it could only be cast if one's position and concentration were stabilized. But surprisingly enough, the Sky Knight above was riding a wyvern and precisely casting magic even in such a critical situation. He was either someone with a ton of courage, or just plain reckless. Ooh-ha-ha-ha! The unknown Sky Knight shot down the blessed spears with magic as he laughed loudly enough to shake the skies. Ziyuning. Along with his laughter, the radiance of mana burst from the Sky Knight's body. Po-po-po-po-po. Highly compressed shots of mana cut through the sky. Swoosh, swoosh. Consecutive wind cutter cast. Oh! From Halmine's mouth came a long sound of admiration. It wasn't just the consecutive casting. Even for a 5th circle mage, anyone who could cast twice in that position or situation would be called an incredible master. But surprisingly, the unidentified Sky Knight didn't just cast once or twice, but 7 times. Quack. Crash. The wyvern bitten by the spirit lost its balance and screamed as it crash-landed on Earth. It didn't have any enspelled gear, so it had taken a critical injury on the important wing joint where it was bitten. Lacy Forte. Yuwa. The Tamir Sky Knights who had been charging and so confidently screamed in a foreign language. Their numbers had given them the advantage, but in terms of defense, the Tamir coalition's wyverns were desperately disadvantaged. Pushed back by the white blasts of 4th circle spells, they lost their nerves. Kaiwia. Kwaak. The wyverns had looked down on their opponent and flown over in a dense cluster. Each wind cutter ripped up a wing and sent one wyvern crashing to Earth. Wyvern leather had the special property of mostly resisting 4th circle magic, but in front of the blades of a spell filled with almost 5th circle mana, their hides were like pig skin. The wyverns flapped their torn wings as they rapidly descended from a height of at least 50 meters and kissed the earth. Crash, crash, kwawa-ah, swoosh. As one group of wyverns entangled with magic and crashed down, the other wyverns swerved left and right at rapid speeds as they turned. Having lost their will to fight, the Tamir Sky Knights turned tail and they fled. Their confidence as they triumphantly teased the soldiers vanished, leaving only the pathetic appearances of cowards. My goodness! It's the hybrid wyvern. While Count Yates's mages and knights were reeling in shock at the unbelievable victory, they saw it. The wyvern that saved them from death was a taboo hybrid wyvern despised in the Empire. Flap, 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 flap. Once the Tamir wyverns had fled far away, the hybrid wyvern slowly landed in front of Count Yates. The wyvern's mighty black body that represented the Budran Empire and the golden stripes gleaming in the sun made everyone stare in awe. Thump! A Sky Knight wrapped in a crimson cloak undid his safety ring and jumped to the ground. Then he walked towards Count Yates. The Sky Knight opened his magic helmet with a click, revealing. Underneath the helmet was a strange and still young face. Seeing a black-haired man with handsome features, a face entirely different from what they imagined, everyone let out low murmurs. Greetings to Count Yates. I am from Wayne Covert, Baronet Kyer de Aderon. Holding the helmet in the crook of his left arm, Baronet Kyer raised his right hand in the manner of knights. The knights' faces filled with doubt upon finding out that the young man had a title that didn't match his enormous skill. For a person of this much skill, you wouldn't be able to acquire such a talented man, even if you gave him a viscount. No, a count title. Well met. I am Count Yates de Levuinen. Unlike the knights and mages, Count Yates nodded as he accepted Kyer's greeting in stride. Kyer and Yates's gazes clashed in the air, generating figurative sparks. Then, a small smile formed on Kyer's lips. Qua! Stomp, stomp, stomp. One of the Tamir wyverns, whose wings were ripped up but was otherwise uninjured, roared angrily as it ran over. Babetto, step on it, commanded Kyer with a quiet voice. Go! Flying into the air at once, the wyvern named Babetto roared in happiness. Crunch! Qua ea! The bulky hybrid wyvern flew into the air with ease and proceeded to trample the other, looking entirely insane. Gulp! The nervous swallowing of the onlookers was audible. This black-haired handsome man who was smiling silently. Everyone quietly pledged to never make him an enemy in the future. Allow me to extend my formal thanks. It is nothing. That was my obvious duty as a knight of His Imperial Majesty. I'm thankful that you put it that way. He's really a knightly noble, I thought. A person's eyes didn't lie. After repulsing the Tamir people's wyverns, we all departed immediately to save a village called Haitun. Once the wyverns that were harassing them disappeared, Count Yates's soldiers gathered and pushed back the monster horde in an instant. And now, I was speaking one-on-one with Count Yates. Haitun was closer to a fort than a village. We were sitting in an office for the top officers, our eyes meeting. But it's truly surprising. I didn't hear that there was a genius mage like you in the Empire. And to be a mage who can summon a spirit at that. As if curious, Yates asked my identity in a roundabout way. He must have clearly seen my skill in magic. No matter how much of a genius you were, the fifth circle wasn't a stage that could be reached by someone of my age. Moreover, there was likely no one on the continent who could summon spirits on top of that. That is a misunderstanding. I am a mage, but not a summoner. You're not a summoner? But then how was the intermediate spirit summoned? That was because of this, I said, extending my arm and showing the silver bracelet my master had put on. Oh, it seems like a very valuable magic item. It is indeed. It is a spirit artifact given to me by my esteemed teacher. As long as one is wearing this, one can summon an intermediate wind spirit. So that's how it is. Yates was a knight who could use mana. Even a knight like him could tell that Master's dimensional travel bracelet was extraordinary. This bracelet was an extremely high-level item that even a mage wouldn't be able to comprehend. But how in the world did you end up all the way here? Wayne Covert is a place that doesn't suit a man of your talent. It must be the intent of God, and the punishment of the people towards someone who owns a hybrid wyvern as well. I see. Count Yates nodded at the mention of my hybrid wyvern. He too was a noble of the Empire, so he could probably grasp the gist of why I was here. But sir, may I ask why the Tamir have so many wyverns? Now it was my turn to satisfy my curiosity. I also find that point strange. Even if wyvern eggs are acquired, in order to purify them, a considerable amount of time and attention are necessary. They have completely broken that common sense, to the point that it makes me doubt whether they are banging wyverns out like swords. In particular, the group attacks of the bastards are getting worse this year. That's not good news. Strong enemies were already all over the place, but I was getting some foreboding new information. If they started wearing magic gear as well, then there would be no way to counter them. Qua. Guku kuku. Bebeto, you brat. I told you to do it lightly. Because Haitan was a village for military use, it also had 5 hangars. 5 captured wyverns were stuffed into them. Their wings were ripped, so they needed a long period of recovery. After getting beaten a few times by Bebeto while resisting, they were dragged all the way here on foot. Of course, the 2 males snapped out of their shock and defied Bebeto, but they were excitedly crushed and became meek. On the other hand, the female wyverns surrendered in advance due to Bebeto's thick muscles and obediently followed us to Haitan. And now, the mental re-education was taking place. I could tell from his screams that Bebeto was decisively educating the male wyverns that defied him. Your wyvern is on a different level from the wyverns I know. He may be a hybrid wyvern, but I'm surprised that he's that feral. A man should have at least that much drive. Drive? Ha! It seems he's taken after you, Yakes said, bursting out in good-natured laughter. I didn't deny those words. In my eyes, a man should have the charm of the rough wilderness. Smooth at times and rough at times. Wasn't that the charm of a man? That aside, what to do about this? You did your best to save me and my soldiers, but there's nothing I can do for you. Era? Is he saying he can't give me the dough? Count Yakes was uttering words that veered off course from the common sense I attached to this place. His hard, chiseled face flushed a little. How could materialistic matters be of any import when it comes to something done for His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor, and the Empire? The hides of the wyverns that died are more than enough payment. 7 wyverns had crashed down. Among them, 2 must have landed head first, because they had died with broken necks. It couldn't compare to their price when alive, but just their hide and bones could sell for at least 100,000 gold. How very admirable. For a man like you to come here. How about it? Any desire to follow me back to the mainland? It would be fine if you became a Sky Knight in the service of my territory, if you choose to not serve the Imperial family. I would also guarantee a title of at least a Viscount. As I masked my pretense with a fake laugh, Yakes nodded and tried to scout me. I am thankful for your intent. However, this is a post granted to me by His Imperial Majesty the Emperor. I will work towards Nerman's peace with my life on the line in accordance with his order. Sai, I know your feelings well, but it seems there's no need for that anymore. You must have heard the rumors, but the Empire has already decided to give up on Nerman. I will tell you, since it's something you will come to know anyway, the withdrawal order has already come down. Orders for the Imperial troops have been issued to return to the Empire within 2 months. Voot? Already. Hearing the decision that was faster than I expected bewildered me for a moment. Then what will happen to the citizens left here? Also, where are the native conscripted soldiers supposed to go? I pretty much knew that answer, but I wanted to make sure. Nerman is not under the Emperor's direct jurisdiction anyway, and it is not a territory with a lord. It was only a provisional province. The moment the Empire gives up on this place, the citizens and the conscripted natives will be left behind. The Empire cannot currently accept them. Don't worry too much. I will most likely transfer all authority to Viscount Lukens. If that happens, he should be able to independently maintain a certain level of security. That can't happen. This was where things got important. I had to turn the tides to my favor. In regards to that, there's something I wish to say. Putting on a severe expression, I solemnly relay that I had something of importance to say. It seems like an important matter. Shall we drink a glass? I will gladly accept. As if to confirm that he was a man of many years, he read my expression. It's not precious alcohol, but it is alcohol that I enjoy. It is potent, but it is alcohol fit for men who hold no grudges. To begin with, our conversation was just between the 2 of us without any aids. Yakes picked up a blue bottle that was in the office. Yakes poured blue-colored alcohol into glasses made of tin. For the great Emperor and the peace of the Empire, toasted Count Yakes. Here. I raised my glass high, then emptied it into my mouth. Kaya. MMM. The 2 of us groaned at the same time. The word "my mouth is on fire" were made for this moment. As the alcohol went down my gullet, my insides burned. A hot and numb energy like I swallowed lava electrified my senses. I breathed out. It really is manly. As the strong alcohol went down, the faint smell of wine snaked out of my mouth. This is the taste. This is the alcohol my senior knight recommended me when I was struggling with murder in my first battle. The name of the alcohol is Leucocysnia. In the ancient language, it means friend of oblivion. Yakes gazed at the glass as if looking at a friend. I feel like I'll get addicted to it too. This fiery, hot alcohol, Leucocysnia, was one with the feelings of a warrior charging towards his enemies. The name of the alcohol was already engraved deep in my soul. Now tell me, what is it that you wish to say to me? Turning his gaze from the glass, Yakes looked at me with his calm brown eyes. Please give them to me. Yakes looked at me questioningly at my sudden request. Instead of transferring them to Viscount Lookance, please give all of your soldiers to me. The soldiers? To you? Asked the Count in surprise. You must know as well, sir, how the Viscount named Lookance has been treating the residents here. If you give all the soldiers to someone like him, you will be no different from the Empire nobles that are throwing Nerman away as if tossing away an old shoe. A wicked noble who forces others to live a life more disgraceful than death in the name of the best choice. I instinctively knew that there was no need for something like feeble rhetoric with the man in front of me. I had to win him over heart to heart with all my sincerity. My words apparently made him tense. Yakes's glass trembled as he clenched it. Those words just now. Can you take responsibility? The Count looked at me straight in the eye, his voice quiet but full of dignity. I nodded. If you give me the chance, sir, I will guard Nerman in a way that does not disgrace the name of the Empire. I answered with a passionate heart. Are you confident? Confident that you can protect this place where there are monsters everywhere and only enemies to be found with your own power? All people die, but not all people die in the same way. Those who live their lives with passion before they go will die noble deaths to suit them, whereas those who live dirty and disgracefully will only have moldy, dark deaths that suit them. I intend to live passionately and fiercely before I go. A life that I won't regret, even in death, that kind of stormy life. Saying that someone who lived day after day without hesitation would have the same kind of death as someone who lived with greed and disgrace was wrong. A moment of silence ensued. Casting his gaze away from me, Yakes stared at his glass. All right, I will do as you wish. Success. I cheered on the inside at Yakes' definite answer, which I couldn't have predicted. He was a commander without any decent wyverns, but at his one word, thousands of trained men could come under my banner. Only, I have a condition. Condition. However, such a big matter wouldn't be resolved so easily. Show me that you have the qualifications to handle this place instead of Viscount Lookance. The Count suddenly brought up qualifications. What kind of qualifications are you talking about? I will give you exactly 1 month of time. In that time, knock down Lookance. If you do so, I will give you not only the soldiers that you want, but also all of the military goods necessary. The proposal was indeed extraordinary, but it was natural that he would attach a condition. Just because my skills were outstanding didn't mean I could easily prove that I could defend Nerman with my strength alone. Moreover, Lookance was a person who had built up his strength for 10 years here on the Nerman Plains. If it were me, I would also choose to transfer my soldiers to Lookance, whose skills were already proven, rather than a rookie like me. There were a lot of nobles worse than Lookance anyway. I understand. As you wish, I will try to prove my ability. Haha, that's right. If you're a knight, it's only right to prove your sense of responsibility and ability before you assert your rights. Kyre, do your best. I will be watching. Yakes burst out with a generous laugh at my affirmative response. All right, then let us have another glass. To commemorate meeting a friend like you, I should do no less than empty this entire bottle. The Count filled up my glass without reserve, treating me like an old friend. Thank you very much. I dedicate this glass to the god of fate, Romero, who allowed me to meet the Count. Before I knew it, my glass was full of potent wine. I knocked back the whole glass. Kia. The glass of spirits disappeared as it burned the inside of my mouth to numbness. The alcohol felt like the words I had uttered. That hot, fiery, and intense taste. It was an alcohol that was truly similar to the kind of life I dreamed of. Chapter 50, Fishing. Ho ho, life is good. Swoosh, swoosh. Unable to hide my joy, I was smiling ear to ear under the helmet. Babetto was flapping his large, golden-striped black wings as he cut through the wind. On a day like this, the refreshing wind seemed to be singing about spring. What cuties! I turned my head. Behind us was the source of my happiness, 5 wyverns. They weren't wearing enspelled armor, but they were, at a glance, 5 sturdy wyverns. Having accepted Babetto as their boss, they were flying with all their might behind us. Ahaha! If each one is 2 million, then 5 of them make 10 million gold. Oh gods above, thank you. Wyverns were known to have impressively strong loyalty towards their masters. But that was nothing for me and Babetto. The The Korean proverb, "There's nothing one can do against pure force," applied here. As long as I threw a wholeheartedly resisting wyvern to Babetto, it would educate itself, and then I would follow up with a medicine that was heal. After repeating that a few times, most wyverns would shit blood to cling on to me. The go-getter Babetto's outrageous trampling. Only someone who had tasted it would know the feeling. If I keep winning over enemy wyverns like this, ho-ho, I won't be jealous of any kingdom. So far, I hadn't heard of anyone re-educating wyverns like this and then using them. It wasn't easy to win an enemy wyvern over without dealing critical injury in the middle of battle, and a wyvern's sense of loyalty was no less than most knights. However, the wyverns were putting out both hands at the coordination between Babetto and me. I felt like I could make a few wyvern fleets after a few more rounds of this. But will they be fine? They're apparently guys that didn't grow up on holy water instead of magic armor. The Tamir wyverns had strange figures drawn on their bodies. It turned out that those figures had been drawn by a shaman. In order to use a wyvern for military purposes, the wyverns had to be soaked in holy water from the time they were in the egg to eradicate demonic power. But apparently, the Tamir were training their wyverns with shamanry instead of holy water. It doesn't matter. Whether you're on a motorcycle or a bike, as long as you end up in the same place, it's all the same. Whatever might happen will happen later. Right now, the wyverns were following Babetto and my orders obediently. The females were particularly quick to wag their tails at Babetto. So, it's actually not all wyverns that oppose hybrid wyverns, but just the males. Must be a male's characteristic wariness towards a stronger male. I had fought several times on Babetto, but there weren't any wyverns that went mad after seeing Babetto like the rumors said. The only thing was that male wyverns tended to be more aggressive compared to females. To me, it seemed like a male's typical instinctive action, like when a lion at the head of the pride warned off other males. But anyway, I hope nothing happened. I heard through the communication channel for military use only that Viscount-looking soldiers or wyverns hadn't attacked Denfers. But even as I flew over, I was worried that they might get attacked. They might hold out one way or another if it was only ground combat. But if wyverns were used, it was crystal clear that all the mercenaries in the covert would flee. And a short while later, in the middle of worrying, I saw Denfers and breathed a sigh of relief. On this continent, I didn't really have anywhere to call home. But as soon as I saw the worn-out city, Denfers, I suddenly felt the joy of returning home. 1 month, right? Okay, before that, I will make Viscount Lookins fall to his knees. A fight with Viscount Lookins to be recognized as the formal master of over 20,000 soldiers and Nerman itself. I'd already come this far and had no desire to compromise. The path walked by Kang Hyuk, the man. The only path was a shining victory. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Go. Once he saw Wayne covert, Babetto let out a long roar to announce his arrival. Kyo. Cool. The wyverns following us startled me with long roars as well. Clang, 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 clang. With the arrival of several wyverns, mercenaries popped up like frogs jumping out of a hot pot, and the bell clanged loudly to inform the covert of an enemy appearance. Impressive. Even though they couldn't do much with their strength alone, the mercenaries were drawing bows or gripping weapons with combat readiness. I felt a flush of satisfaction seeing their soldierly actions. Ruin. Yuwa. If you want to live, everyone run. Mommy. Gay. However, my satisfaction crumbled not even 3 seconds later. Of course losing themselves in fear, the mercenaries ran in all directions like bunnies fleeing a hawk. They were so fast that they could probably beat the world record for the 100-meter dash. It's the Lord. Is it really him? But a few guys with their head on straight saw me and yelled that it was the Lord. It seemed that in the time I was gone, the mercenaries had decided to treat me as their Lord as well. The Lord has returned. The mercenaries stopped running only after confirming Babetto's appearance, which was starkly different from other wyverns, and me on his back. Swoosh! Babetto flapped his wings as he slowly descended on the covert's runway. Flap, 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 flap. And the other 5 wyverns landed as well behind him. They're Tamir wyverns. Holy, why are they here? As expected of Nerman mercenaries, they recognized the Tamir wyverns whose bodies were marked with shamanry. Welcome back, my liege. Looking at me and the wyverns, Derval ran through the throng of mercenaries who were racking their rock-hard brains. Nothing happened. There were no problems. But these wyverns are. I picked them up. Pardon? Pick them up? Wyverns. I don't know how those Tamir northerners knew, but they gave me 5 wyverns, telling me to knock down Viscount Lookins. And they even processed 2 dead wyverns nicely and gave me those as a gift as well. As expected of my liege, at my nonsensical explanation, Derval looked at me with eyes full of emotion and respect. He would probably even believe me if I said you can make bread with dirt. Wow, what's all this money laying around? There was such a fuss at my arrival, but Riker appeared only now with a swagger and his clothes in a disarray. His eyes gleamed with desire as he looked at the wyverns. If you sold even one of these. Ho, gulp. Riker, whose head only had thoughts of women and wine, looked at my wyverns with wicked eyes. He's like this, but asks for a wyvern? This cheeky fellow. No matter how much I needed Sky Knights, I didn't want to give one to Riker. That would make me no different from a crazy person entrusting a cat with a tasty fish before leaving the house. Derval, prepare hangars where these wyverns can rest at once, and bring them some fresh food. As you command. Cuckoo. Little ones, from now on, this place is your home. Let's do our best together. The innocent country bumpkin wyverns were sitting behind Babetto, as if keeping guard. Just looking at them revived the satisfaction in my heart. If I go hunting with these guys, just how much could I earn? Everything could be connected to money here on the Nerman Plains, as long as you put in a little bit of effort. All I had to do now was to gather up the gold coins and put them in my pocket. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You say he now has 5 wyverns raised by Tamir? The report coming into his ears, which had become sensitive due to the important goods, was so ridiculous that Viscount Lookins had to confirm it twice. Yes, precise information has not yet come in, but the report says 5 Tamir wyverns have definitely joined his forces. Lookins wasn't an idiot. Among the mercenaries the rookie Baronet Kyer took in, some were Lookins' informants. Through them, important information was quickly being reported to Gadain Castle. Surely he hasn't united with those Tamir? That is probably not the case. As you know, my liege, the Tamir are single-minded tribal folk who know no compromise. It makes no sense for them to join hands with someone. If they were of a mind to unite with someone that easily, then they would have accepted your proposal long ago, my liege. Lookins was someone who had already tried many times to compromise with the Tamir. He knew it well, that unlike any other empire or kingdom on the continent, the Tamir could raise and use wyverns far more easily. One of the reasons they were able to survive in the northern continent, which crawled with monsters and demon beasts, was their wyverns, which had the battle prowess of 100 men. He's quite a bothersome little bastard. It hadn't been long since he came to Nerman, but the rookie baronet was steadily gnawing on the nerves of Lookins, who was known to have nerves of steel. Lookins' brows furrowed slightly. Even now, as soon as you give the word, we can eliminate him at once. An adjutant once again quietly proposed to attack, while looking at Lookins' inscrutable face. Cuckoo. No. Passing over the goods comes before him. That aside, how far are they? From the missives we've received from the Kurt birds, they have left the port. We can send out the convoy 4 days from now. 4 days from now. Cuckoo, I cannot wait. Lookins, who normally didn't show his emotions, revealed his teeth as he laughed with satisfaction. Once the goods were passed over, and the goods were given to him as promised, no one in Nerman would be able to do anything about him anymore. And as long as he received their cooperation, he had the confidence to turn Nerman Eno the continent's best territory in a short amount of time. I always say this, but do your best until the very end. I have bet everything on this. I shall keep that in mind again and again, responded Lookins' chief adjutant knight, Delvado. As the 2 men spoke, darkness blanketed Gadain Castle, mirroring the hearts of men conspiring ever so quietly. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Getting closer is impossible. Their security is incredibly tight. Regardless of who you are, all people are decapitated if they come within 2 kilometers around the transport ships. Also, at least half of Lookins' men are there, and wyverns frequently patrol the area. What in the world is there for him to protect it so fiercely? That's strange. Even if they go out with the transport ships, once they go into the sea, they'll get robbed silly by the pirates. Why the heck is he guarding those ships so much? Maybe came from Riker's lips, and because he was sometimes capable of saying something smart, Derval and my gazes turned to him. Ho-ho, Lookins, that bastard. He couldn't be remodeling the transport ships and turning them into the newest model of moving tavern? Ah, fuck, that's a business idea I was saving for later. Lookins, you really are something. Flailing his fists, Riker expressed his burning regret. Pow! Af! Without any words, I let loose a fist at Riker's face, which was to my left. Oi, why are you hitting me? Holding his eye, Riker resisted me a little. If you say one more bit of nonsense, you'll come out as Babetto's poop tomorrow. Chen, this pervert Riker, he really tested the limits of one's patience. He only shut his mouth after getting hit. As Riker said, that point is indeed suspicious. As long as Viscount Lukens isn't an idiot, would he have prepared a convoy? From what I heard, the sea in front of the Nerman Plains is called the playground of pirates. Derval closed his eyes as he fell into deep thought. Pirates and Lukens. What a matching combination. Those cockroach-like pirates and Lukens were a match made in heaven. The answer was obvious. He must be trying some kind of trade with those pirates, even though I don't know what the goods are. Most likely, Derval looked up from his contemplation and spoke as if he had come to a conclusion. It must be that. I looked at Derval as I trailed off meaningfully. I believe so. If he isn't moving, even though we have provoked him this much, it must only mean that whatever is in the convoy is more important. And it must have some kind of connection to those guys. I nodded at my smart retainer's words. Yoa, what in the world are you talking about? What must be that? Don't treat a person like a fool right in front of them. Isn't this too much? Riker, who had been cocking his ears to listen to my cryptic words with Derval, couldn't hold back his frustration anymore and flapped his mouth. Pow! And as soon as Riker finished, my fist of punishment flew over with terrifying speed. Pow! Popo! His right, I was already swollen, and now his left I was too. Riker rolled around in pain on the ground. My 2 feet moved to punish him. Ugya, please spare me. Riker screamed like a pig being slaughtered at my indiscriminate attack. The thing getting hit by my feet isn't a person, but an orc. I closed my ears and hypnotized myself. Pow! 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 Thanks to the effect of the hypnotizing, even more strength went into my feet. Today, I learned for real. It was something I learned from the wyverns. If words were ineffective, fists were the only answer. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There are Tamir wyverns there? Surprisingly enough, it isn't even 1 or 2, but 5. How can that be? The wyverns used by the Tamir have much higher loyalty than other wyverns. Her voice rang hollow as Baroness Janice's long eyelashes trembled in shock. There are already 7 wyverns in Kyre's possession. If they were to get protective gear or Sky Knights, then Janice's Sky Knight, Burkith, trailed off with a bitter expression. They all thought that Kyre would come asking for help soon after provoking Viscount Lukens. No, that was just common sense. No matter how outstanding the Sky Knight and Wyvern were, in front of such numbers, they could only bend the knee. But Kyre's skill overturned all reason. He killed Palmyr and captured his Wyvern, and now he had brought several Tamir Wyverns into the covert's hangars as well. And all that within a few days of being assigned here. Everyone was silent for a moment as they thought of Kyre. He is someone whose identity truly cannot be unraveled. How did he employ so many mercenaries in such a short amount of time and control the hearts of the Denfur's residents? Janice's words were filled with how dumbstruck she was. Everything was progressing differently from what they had planned, throwing her thoughts into disarray. Shall we go see him at once? The short and sturdily built Addison brought up a visit to Kyre. Not yet. So what if there are a bunch of wyverns in hangars? They've got no Sky Knights, and moreover, wyverns aren't like humans. They won't betray their previous masters so easily, said Burkith, expressing the opposite sentiment. Janice was on the horns of a dilemma. She was currently preparing all of her forces for a blown-out battle with Viscount Lukens the moment Kyre came to her with his head bowed. But the problem was the rookie Sky Knight wasn't coming. Let's wait and see a few more days. Observe Kyre and Viscount Lukens' movements well for now. That is probably the best method. Tisich, to think the stone that rolled over was this big. At Janice's orders, the 2 Sky Knights looked bitter. Their current situation was one where they had discovered that the stone that rolled over wasn't a hidden gem for them to take, but something that could destroy all their plans. You wouldn't be human if you didn't feel any bitterness towards an incomprehensible entity that realized all the dreams you had held onto for over 10 years. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The weather sure was great. It was a night where low black clouds obscured the light of the stars. Wearing skin-tight black clothes like an assassin, I was attempting infiltration. Security is really strict. We knew well enough that Lukens was planning on trading something with the pirates. But what that something was the question. My curiosity brought me over here to personally find out. And now, I could see it. The sight of soldiers in groups of 10 crawling all over the wharf in patrols took my breath away for a moment. Just how important are those goods? I thought, growing even more curious about the identity of the goods. The ships were bigger than I thought. With a length of just under 30 meters, the part floating above the water alone was already 5 meters tall. The stout shape indicated that they were indeed convoy ships, and there were 5 of them in total. It'd be nice if I could just use invisibility. Among the 7th circle spells, there was one for invisibility. I knew the formula, but I couldn't cast it because my circle level was too low. However, I couldn't just go back like this. Thankfully, the fog is blowing in just in time. Fog. Hiding between 2 rather large trees, I cast fog magic. The weather suited my purposes. Rain had fallen on the riverside and the sky was thick with low clouds. Shah. With the activation of the spell from a point around 100 meters away, fog spread out in all directions. Thanks to the humidity from the riverside and the weather, the fog spell was at least twice as effective. Quite a lot of mana was sucked out as it combined with the mana in the atmosphere to create the fog. What kind of fog is this thick? Chill. Your voice is too loud. If you get caught by the supervisor, you'll be flogged. A few soldiers patrolling near me muttered amongst themselves. Haste. As the fog swept past them and blanketed the area, I cast haste. Flash. There was a brief flash because of the cast, but because I was flat on the ground and covered most of it with my black robe, not much light escaped. I raised my head carefully to examine my surroundings. Thankfully, no one had discovered me. The riverside was overgrown with reeds, which I hid myself in like the wind, the reeds rustling as I went. I used Mana Step and Haste at the same time. No joke, I was 3 times faster than Usain Bolt running the 100-meter. One group over there. Because I ran with my mana still activated, I could clearly feel the soldiers' presences. I slipped past them like a roach as I swiftly approached the ships. Ghoul, that stupid bird brain. A wyvern flying above the foggy riverside gave out a low roar. Even though I was cursing, my body was already almost at the wharf. However, even though the wharf was thick with fog, wood fires crackled as they lit up the area well enough that you could still see in front of you. Summoned Sylph. Right now, I needed a creature of silence. A spirit was more useful than magic here, so I summoned Sylph. At my summoning, Sylph appeared with a slight puff of wind. Because of the fog, Sylph's half-transparent body was almost invisible. Sylph, go turn off all those fires. Instead of answering, Sylph nodded before whooshing off. Oi, what's going on? What kind of wind is this rough? The soldiers were startled as Sylph's breath blew out the wood fires. What are you all doing? Quickly light the fires. An angry knight's voice rang out. It was only for a moment, but when the fires went out, the area was concealed in fog. I lightly shot forward and stealthily jumped onto the stern of a ship. This is more exciting than I thought. These actions were like a spy or 007 James Bond from the movies. Just like how a certain thief once said, a stolen apple tasted better than a regular one. The tension electrified my whole body and gave me a strange taste of excitement. There's not much on the ship. The wharf and the area around the ships was thick with soldiers, but there weren't many on the ship itself. I could only faintly feel the movements of a few people who seemed to be knights. My footsteps as light as a cat's. I shot forward into the passage in the middle of the ship. I could tell from my mana that the inside of the ship definitely didn't have any people. Therefore, if I could just reach the inside of the ship, today's infiltration would be a success. Russell, safe. As I slid into the passage like a runner in baseball, I cried out safe in my mind. And with that, my infiltration was a success. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Era? What's all this? Inside the ship, just as I thought, there were goods loaded up in a rectangular cabin. In front of me were sturdy wooden chests about 50 centimeters long and wide. I didn't know what was inside, but the uniformly stacked wooden chests were tightly tied up several times with ropes to secure them for sea travel. What in the world might be inside? They were definitely not jewels or food. The chests were also too small for me to think that weapons might be inside. Magic crystals? Or gold coins? The goods valued on this continent drifted to my mind, but there wasn't an obvious answer. At a time like this, there was no need to rack my brain. I undid the ropes tying the chests in the back. Ho-ho, how nice would it be if these were all gold coins or magic crystals? If all of these were gold coins or magic crystals, the biggest reason to chop up lookings would appear. I controlled my excited thoughts and gently opened one of the chests. Click! It was nailed shut, but my mana-imbued hand pried it open with ease. Ah! Looking at the open chest, an exclamation of doubt came bursting out of me. What is this? Inside the chest was a bottle wrapped in plushy sheep fleece, a round glass bottle. Inside was some kind of blue, gleaming liquid. Alcohol, I thought as I looked at the liquid carefully stored in the bottle. Is he really intending to make a tavern here, like Riker said? But making a high-class tavern in a remote and perilous place like this was crazy. Do the pirates not have enough alcohol? However, that too was ridiculous. Pop! I opened the glass bottle, which I thought might be a bottle of alcohol. As soon as I opened the bottle, a refreshing fragrance burrowed deep into my nostrils. It was an unknown fragrance that resembled spring flowers, but also carried the likeness of mint. It smells rather familiar. I had a great memory and remembered this fragrance. It can't be. A certain word flashed through my mind. Gulp, gulp. I hastily drank big gulps of the liquid inside. Kia. This smooth and cool, refreshing but hot flavor going down my throat that reminded me of a digestive drink. It's a top-grade potion. Surprisingly, it wasn't even an ordinary potion, but a special gift of the gods that boasted a 3-year minimum shelf life, a top-grade potion. If this bottle is full of top-grade potion, it's got to be at least several thousand gold. Then if everything on this boat is potion. Catching. My mind spun to calculate. The moment you drank this top-grade potion, most injuries would be healed instantly. The item knights absolutely had to bring with them to battle was this top-grade potion, an item seen as so valuable that one could guess a knight's wage by the existence or absence of a potion, as well as its quality. It seemed there were 1,000 chests of such potions here. It has to be at least millions of gold. The problem is that these potions are continent-exclusive products. To pirates who cannot trade with the temples, these potions are... Money wasn't the problem. Potions were definitely needed to repulse the monsters living in the sea. From what I heard, the pirates on the Kessmire Islands were a group of maritime gangsters ruling the sea. They probably needed a ton of potions. Ho-ho-ho. So this is why he's been doting and cherishing these boats so much. The empires and kingdoms that were being harassed by the pirates had likely completely banned any trade with them. There weren't any crazy kingdoms that would sell holy water treated as valuable goods, even in the continent, to the pirates. I drew a conclusive answer. Use Lookins as a puppet boss to supply holy water, cuckoo, and in return, the pirates will take Lookins' side. Even for Lookins, it would be impossible for him to hold Nerman with his current military strength alone. But if he were to continue furnishing the pirates with holy water, and they were to help him, then it would be a different situation. With the pirates as powerful reinforcements, clearing away the monsters and subjugating the Tamir would not be difficult. So what should I do with all these? If these bottles were all smashed using magic, Lookins would probably want to commit seppuku. However, these were most definitely goods purchased by sucking out the blood and life of the Nerman residents. I didn't want to throw that to the void. Thump thump. HM. While I was thinking a bit, I heard footsteps approaching the cabin. I swiftly closed the chest and retied the rope before erasing my presence and hiding between the chests. There are 4 days left now. Yeah, just thinking about how much we suffered because of these guys makes my hackles rise. We have to endure. If these goods are passed over properly, these Nerman planes will belong to our liege and us. Of course, that's how it should be. Once those traitorous Budran Empire bastards leave, we will protect Nerman with our hands. Seeing that I could feel mana from them, the two people were definitely knights. 4 days? Oh, is that so? That aside, I heard that Kyr guy boosted his forces by quite a lot. Seems so, yeah. The fellow in charge of information just told me. 5 wyverns used by the Tamir are in his hangars. Dirty bastard. It seems his actions are no different from those Budran traitors. He's definitely made some kind of agreement with those Tamir. Geez, these guys are busy writing a novel here. Without even knowing what really went down, the two people muttered with resentful voices. I wanted to go out and kick their babbling mouths, but I had to hold back today. Let's go to the next ship. Ho-ho. All right, let's go see our pretties. Wipe your saliva. Those girls are merchandise. Girls? Merchandise? The two knights went outside and disappeared without even thinking to resolve my questions. It seems there are girls on another ship. When I took over Den Furs, we saw almost no girls in Viscount Lookin's mansion. My guess was that those women were all dragged to the wharf. I should retreat for now. Having found out that there were top-grade potions and kidnapped women here was already a big harvest. Lookins, you really are an unforgivable son of a bitch. I hadn't seen Lookins' face up close. I was curious as to how his inhumane mug looked. This evil bastard who tormented the humans living in Nerman. I wanted to hit him to death, and then some. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Where are you going, sir? Early the next morning after I returned from checking the contents of the ship, I packed a fishing rod and jumped onto Babetto's back. As I did so, Derval and Riker appeared and asked me where I was headed. Wait here a bit. I'll fish up a huge one. Ho-ho. Kyrnim, you really do know romance. But where are you going? I know a real nice place, Riker said, almost drooling. Sigh, this person can't be helped. When it came to eating and playing, Riker showed genius-level talent. It was indeed impressive that he had reached the master level, but that alone could not guarantee one's life. Riker should realize that and work a bit harder, but he showed zero sign of putting in any effort. Derval, rest up today. Riker, I'll give a few days rest to the mercenaries, so play and drink to your heart's content. Oh, my liege, I thank you for your great kindness. Riker bowed, deep in my words, to play as he radiated respect towards me. Fists have no effect on this guy. Even though he got beaten up by me, Riker's steadfast appearance showed no light of tension or self-reflection. I guess there were sometimes people who couldn't be fixed even with fists. Shall I just bury him next time? If fists didn't work, then there could only be one thing to try next. Dig about 6 feet deep and bury the fellow. I'll be back. Babetto, let's go. Go. Now that there were wyverns that respected him like the sky, Babetto was in even higher spirits than ever. He roared loudly enough to shake the covert as he spread his golden-striped wings wide. Wow! Babetto brought me above the Lovent River, which rushed through the Nerman Plains. The river was so deep and large that it had to be at least several times wider than the Han River in Korea. They said the river almost reaches Havis Kingdom's borders, didn't they? It'll be way more economical to use it as a transportation method later. We flew to a place several hours away from where Viscount Lookin's convoy ships were located. Around 1 hour's ride away from Denfers. Perfect. I told Derval and Riker that I was going out to fish, but my goal was elsewhere. It'll be good to install the magic circle on those rocks. Sturdy-looking black boulders were positioned on each side of the river. Flop, flop. Go, go. Whoa. Is it okay for freshwater fish to be that big? The creatures on this continent overturned all common sense. Even now, creatures that looked like carp were flopping out of the water. But surprisingly, they were huge fish reaching nearly 2 meters in size. Babetto spotted them with his sharp eyes and expressed his joy. All right, you go catch some fish. I'll be working. Babetto was no help at all to my work. I didn't want to force him to sit around for me. With that, I jumped off Babetto's back. In my hand was the magic crystal and magic crystal dust I acquired not long ago. Thud. Despite jumping from quite the distance, I only felt a slight impact on my knees as I landed on a flat rock. Ever since I started using mana, my body became as light as a feather. My body also gained a healthy physique that didn't catch illnesses like the common cold anymore. La la la. I stood on a massive boulder facing the water and hummed. My heart had become light upon reaching this place, where the river flowed smoothly and the air was suffused with the fragrance of spring. Flatten. Using magic, I cut the boulder in half to flatten it completely. A length of rock 2 meters wide was cleanly cut with a single cast, revealing a flat surface. Go. Flop flop. At Babetto's excited cry, I turned my head. Wow. Babetto had a huge 3-meter fish in his claws. The fish's strength must be good, because as it was pulled out, it flailed like Luffy using a goma technique as it struggled. Ho-ho. I tell ya, as long as you have him, you'll never starve. He ate and pooped a lot, but Babetto was just as helpful. I couldn't help but feel gratitude to the god that gifted me him. I wonder if everyone is doing well. My thoughts drifted to the faces I missed, but had forgotten for a moment because of all the crazy things happening. I took a handful of crystal dust as I thought about them. My parents and friends, as well as Yeren, the priestess Aramis, Countess Irene, Hyneth, Princess Aegis, and the girl dressed as a man who stole my first real kiss, Russell. 10. F in the chat for Rodolo, who was completely forgotten because he has XY chromosomes. The faces I missed went quickly through my thoughts. Just wait a bit longer. I'll develop Nerman into the continent's best region and invite all of you over. Thinking of the faces that made me happy just remembering them, I started drawing the magic circle. In order to make Nerman my paradise on this continent, Lookins was an obstacle. Taking care of that wicked villain was my first objective.